In this video, I'm going to show you how you can make yourself such an easy sports bra. The pattern consists out of 3 pattern pieces, has a bastard for shaping and can be downloaded from my website for free. All you need is some jersey fabric and some elastics. For the neckline and armhole you can choose between a 7 or 10 mm wide elastic, and for the bottom you should use a 2.5 cm wide elastic. So before we can talk about the pattern, we need to have a little chat about the fabric. So the amount of support you get out of this pattern does highly depends on your choice of fabric and elastic. So you want something with a lot of stretch, best with spandex in it, because this does not only increase the stretchability but keeps it tight, so it makes the jersey a bit more stable. And this is what you want. You want a stretchy and stable jersey. Something like a rayon jersey, even with spandex, would not work because that is just too flimsy, not strong enough. So don't try this at home. You can increase the support by doubling the fabric, so just make an inner and an outer shell and then put them together before you put in the elastic. Or you can line your fabric with something like a power mesh. This would increase the amount of support you get. But you do need to make a little bit of a compromise between support and comfort. So of course a wider, stretchier garment will have more comfort but less support. So to give you a choice, you can set in the amount of negative ease you want to have. And just so you have a little bit more information about this, let me show you how you can determine the amount of stretch your fabric has. So we need a ruler, and I grab the other side. I grab 10 centimeters, it's more easy to calculate, of my fabric, and I stretch it. And you see the fabric stretches between 14 and 15, so let's say 14. This would mean that my fabric has 40% of stretch. That's why we use the 10 centimeters, because this calculation is so much easier. I currently stretch in a 90-degree angle to the grain line. So the grain line is running this way. And this is typically the side with the most stretch, which is the stretchiest. And you want this to run around your body, so you have most of the stretch there. Be careful, because often these fabrics don't have the same amount of stretch vertically and horizontally. So if I grab my 10 centimeters vertically, so with the grain line, and stretch this, it's not exactly the same. It's between 13 and 14. So I would say the vertical stretch would be more like 30% and not 40. So keep this in mind when you're creating the pattern. Now we come to the pattern. The pattern is available on my website for free, and you can either follow the link below the video or you go to dressdeveloper.com, patterns. And here we have a sports bra Jasmine. Create pattern. So here you can choose between a deep neckline or a high neckline, which will not only increase the coverage but also the support. And here you can select your size, or you can upload your measure set with your very own measurements. And here you can enter the fabric stretch, which we just talked about. So I have determined that my fabric is about 40% stretchy horizontally and vertically about 30. So I'm going to change this. Now these percentages gets cut in half, and then subtract it from your measurements. So 40% horizontal stretch would mean that the horizontal measurements are reduced by 20%. So why not the full amount? You want a little bit of wiggly room. You need to put the bra on and off, so you need to have a little bit additional stretch to work around with. Just don't go too high. In duct, when you're trying this pattern out, you can go a little bit lower, go for 30% or 20%, and then have a look how you like the fit, how it turns out. Your elastic is also playing in this, so I would recommend not go too high and have an uncomfortable bra at the end. So the seam allowance, I would suggest you put the seam allowance to the same amount like the width of your elastic, which you want to put into the armholes. Makes it a bit easier, so I'm going to use a 1 centimeter wide elastic for this, and I just add a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Paper format A4 is fine for now, when I can create the pattern. So let me show you the second link first. Here you get a little cover with information about your measurements, pattern pieces. Not much to see here. You have here a printing layout, so you know how you need to assemble your pieces. Need to resend this. Come on. So, and the first link is the pattern itself, all ready for printing. But before we leave, and I will show you the assembling, we need a little talk about your measurements, because there is a new measurement in town. So when you go for the tops, and here you have all the measurements which are mandatory, but there is a new optional measurements. And this is this one, the underbust distance, which is basically the radius of your bust. So you measure it from under the bust to the bust point. And this measurement is used to determine how long your bra will be. So this is an optional measurement. You don't need to set this. But if you have a larger bust, then this might be important to get the right length of your bra. So now you know this, we can finally go and sew. So here we have the pattern pieces cut out. They are teeny tiny. That's because I am making this for my half scale dress form. Yes, these are as tiny as they look, but of course the sizes are available in full scale, so I'm just doing this for demonstration. And yeah, this is the back, cut on fold. We have 2 straps, and the front also cut on the fold, and I have marked the bust point here with the pin, and I have cut the notches here where the dart end. So, and yeah, this is the first step. I need to sew those darts. So I'm just folding this here, and when I move the pin. I move the pin. So I have folded the notches together. The right side of the fabric is here on the inside, and here's the bust point. So I'm going to sew here from the notches to the bust point, and then I will sew a couple of steps further and tie a knot. And it is very important that this seam is sewn with a zigzag stitch, because this seam will get stressed and we don't want this seam to pop. The stitches we don't want the stitches to pop. If you have a serger, you might be tempted to just sew the seam with a serger. I would again advise against this, because when you have a tiny, bulky, flopping strip of fabric here, and I tried it, it does not work. I ended up stitching it down with a zigzag stitch, so better do this with a zigzag stitch. So here's the other dot. I'm just going to pin this too. Okay, so also here and here. Now we can assemble our bra. Here's the front, here's the back, and I will line these up at the sides. The bustard gets folded down and will be caught into this seam. The other side too. And then I can add the straps too. Again, right sides facing. Pin both to the front. And I pin both to the back. Now the back is a bit angled. This is fine, so you don't want to twist the strap, but it will curve a bit. So this is how it looks. Oh, come on. So, yeah, I will just sew all these seams, and I will again use a zigzag stitch. Now you can use your serger if you have one. So these construction seams can be done by serger. I will just sew them for demonstration purpose with a zigzag stitch, which is totally fine. So I will now clean this up a bit by cutting the seam allowance back a bit. Of course, I don't want to cut into the seams, but all these little threads, ends and dangly bits have to go. Of course, this is a step you probably don't need to do when you use a serger. Snip, snip. So what we are missing now is our elastic. And the elastic is a very, very important ingredient for your bra. So let us talk a little bit about elastics. So these are the two elastics I like to use for my bras. You need a wider elastic for the underbust. So the pattern is drafted for a 2.5 centimeters elastic at the bottom, and this is one. It's very stable but very, very stretchy. So this is my choice for the underbust elastic, and this I use, it's brand new. This I use for the neckline and the underarm. So this is a 1 centimeter wide elastic and very, very stretchy, but again very stable. So these are the two elastics I use. Since I am working with a half scale pattern, I need to do my elastics in half scale too. So I will use this 1 centimeter wide elastic for the bottom and this 7 millimeters wide elastic for the rest, for the neckline and the armhole. And yeah, let me show you how this looks. So our bra is turned inside out. That's good, because now I will, I'm not going to pin this in place. I'm just doing it on the sewing machine, but let me show you first, because I will place the elastic here on the bottom, on the inside, and then I will sew it in place right at the edge here with a zigzag stitch, or alternatively with a serger. So I'm going to sew this all around, and while I'm sewing it I will slightly stretch it, not pulling it too terribly fast. I'm just going to slightly stretch it. Remember, your bra is already reduced. It has a negative E, so you should not need that much pull from the elastic. So I'm slightly stretching this while I'm sewing it on, and when I reach the end here, I will let the elastics overlap 1-2 centimeters and cut it off. And I will repeat this around the armholes and the neckline, same procedure. I'm just sewing the elastic in place and slightly stretching it while doing so. So the elastic is in place. This is how it looks now. And there's only one step left, because the elastic shows and this is not very pretty. So I want to fold the elastic to the inside, and as you see, it gets enclosed by the fabric. So now that it keeps in place, of course we have to stitch it down again. So simply another row of zigzag stitches to keep this down. You can, and you probably need to, slightly stretch the bra while you're doing so, so you don't sew in any puckers, because as you see, the fabric does gather up a little bit because we stretched the elastic, right? So that's okay. So this is one of the exceptions. In this case, you are allowed. You have my blessing to stretch the fabric while you sew, slightly, just so you don't have any puckers. Now, a little tip. It might feel right to stitch right along this edge here. So you have one stitch here on the single layer and one stitch here on the double layer with the elastic. Don't do this because this won't look neatly from the right side. It looks best when you keep both stitches, so the left and the right of the zigzag, into the elastic. And this should enclose everything just as nicely. And with that, we are already at the end of this video. The bra is done, and I would say it's a pretty easy project. It's just a teeny tiny bit time consuming because you need to sew on the elastic twice, but it's very easy. As always, I hope you enjoyed this little video and it was of some help. If you have any questions, just let me know down in the comments and I'm glad to help. And I hope I will see you soon in my next video. Bye bye!